Have you ever wondered if there's more to the story of the Egyptian gods than what we were taught in school? What if these ancient deities weren't gods at all, but something much darker, something deceptive and dangerous? There's a hidden side to Egyptian mythology that rarely gets talked about. Today, we're diving into the unsettling truth behind the so-called gods of Egypt and what they might really be. Egyptian gods are actually mentioned in the Bible and not in a positive light. In fact, God makes it very clear how he feels about them. In Exodus 12:12, it says, "For I will pass through the land of Egypt on that night, and will strike down every firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord." During the 10 plagues of Egypt, each one wasn't just a punishment to Pharaoh. They were direct attacks on specific Egyptian gods. These weren't coincidences. Each plague exposed the weakness of a god the Egyptians worshipped. For example, the plague of darkness was likely aimed at Ra, the sun god. What better way to challenge the god of the sun than to blot out the light completely? The plague of frogs may have targeted Hecate, a fertility goddess with a frog head. God was making a clear statement. These so-called gods have no power before him. But let's go even deeper. Where did these gods come from in the first place? The Egyptian pantheon was formed over thousands of years, shaped by local beliefs, natural elements, and societal changes along the Nile River. Early Egyptians personified everything: animals, the sun, the river, even abstract concepts like order and chaos. Each region had its own local deity. As these regions united, their gods merged into one system. That's how we got gods like Osiris, the god of the afterlife, Isis, goddess of magic and motherhood, and Set, god of chaos and war. These beings represented more than just nature. They embodied cosmic order, death and rebirth, even royal power. Temples were built in their honor, rituals were performed daily, and their images were carved into stone all across Egypt. But here's the question: were these really just metaphors and myth, or did people worship something very real and very dangerous? According to the Bible, these gods are not imaginary. They're false, but that doesn't mean they weren't real beings. God says, "You shall have no other gods before me," in Exodus 20:3. That's not just a warning. It's a declaration that others existed, but they were not worthy of worship. So, who or what were they? This is where it starts to align with something far more sinister. Many believe these Egyptian gods were not gods at all, but fallen angels, spiritual entities that rebelled against the true God. These fallen angels, once heavenly beings, took on the form of gods and began deceiving humanity. They presented themselves as protectors, creators, and rulers, but their real purpose was to lead people away from the truth. This isn't just theory, it connects directly to the Book of Enoch, an ancient text that describes how a group of angels called the Watchers descended to earth. These angels taught humans forbidden knowledge, sorcery, astrology, weapon making, and all forms of dark magic. They corrupted humanity from the inside out. And guess what? Ancient Egypt was known for its obsession with magic and the afterlife. Spells, curses, incantations, and rituals were part of everyday life. Does that sound like something godly or something demonic? Let's look at Anubis, for example. He's often called the god of death or the god of the underworld. His jackal-headed image is iconic, but in many ways, he seems more like a demonic gatekeeper than a divine guide. Anubis oversaw the embalming process and led souls to the afterlife, often depicted standing next to scales weighing a human heart against a feather. But his domain was the underworld, a place eerily similar to Sheol, Hades, or even hell in other spiritual traditions. Another one is Thoth, god of wisdom and magic. He was credited with giving writing to mankind and teaching sacred knowledge. But that's exactly what the Book of Enoch said the fallen angels did. They gave humans forbidden wisdom that led to spiritual destruction. That's not divine help, that's deception. Even the physical appearance of the Egyptian gods raises red flags. Many of them were hybrids, part animal, part human. Horus with a falcon head, Sobek with a crocodile head, Bastet as a cat. These combinations sound a lot like the biblical cherubim, beings described in the Bible as having multiple faces: human, lion, ox, and eagle. These aren't cartoon angels, they're terrifying hybrid beings of great power. The serpent imagery is another major red flag. Some Egyptian deities like Wadjet are associated with serpents, but in the Bible, the serpent is the very symbol of deception and rebellion. In Genesis, it was the serpent who caused the fall of humanity. So when you see snake symbolism in Egyptian religion, it's hard not to connect the dots. Now here's something to really think about. What if many ancient religions were all talking about the same beings, just with different names? The Greek gods, the Roman gods, the Mesopotamian deities, they all share common traits. Sun gods, death gods, tricksters, storm gods. Could they all trace back to the same group of fallen angels, manifesting differently depending on the culture? If so, then Egyptian mythology wasn't just a religion. It was a system of spiritual deception, a grand illusion set up by beings who wanted to replace God, receive worship, and control civilizations. That could explain why God was so forceful with Egypt, why he didn't just free his people, but also tore down every symbol of Egyptian power in the process. Remember, the war in heaven described in Revelation tells us that Lucifer and his angels were cast out. So where did they go? To earth. And what did they do? Set up their kingdoms, their temples, their fake thrones, and they demanded worship. That's what makes this so serious. We're not just talking about myth or history. We're talking about a long-standing spiritual war, one that began before humans were even created and continues to this day. And the Egyptian gods, they might be some of the oldest players in that war. So the next time you see ancient statues, pyramids, or hieroglyphs depicting Ra, Anubis, or Isis, ask yourself, were these really divine beings trying to help mankind? Or were they fallen angels using power and deception to lead people away from the one true God? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe the Egyptian gods were ever gods at all, or something much darker?